Hey guys, and welcome to this tutorial on how to build a sorting visualizer using React. So these are what you're going to need. You're going to need Node. So go on to node.js.org and install Node. You have to download this version right here. If you are on a higher version, it is going to be fine, I guess. And next you're going to require a code editor. I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code, so go ahead and download that as well. And once you're done downloading it, let's head on to VS Code and start the setup. Now, I've opened up a directory inside of VS Code. Now, if you don't know how to open up a directory, let me show you how it is done. So you open up your command line, and then you cd into the directory that you require, say colon spaces. And if I please to open VS Code in this folder, VS Code code and dot. So it opens VS Code up in this folder. Now I've already opened it up, so I'm not going to be using any other directory. I'm going to be initializing the project in this directory. So once you open up a directory in VS Code, press Ctrl and tilde together, and it opens up the terminal. So in the terminal, you have to create a React app. So but before that, just check if your npm command is working. If you installed Node, this should work. If it doesn't work, then you have done something wrong and you have to figure it out. All right. So once that is done, you have to install yarn. So you go npm install -g as a global package and yarn. I've already installed it, so it is not going to be an issue. But if you haven't installed it, please install it. Yarn is going to change your lives. Now let me clear. Yeah, so now I'm going to set up a project in this folder, React project. So I'm going to go yarn create React app in this directory. And this will set up a React project for me in this directory. It is going to take a while, so please be patient and go through the process. And I'll catch you once it's done. Now my project is done setting up. As you can see, I got this happy hacking message. So if I go and type in yarn start, and my project should run. And let me bring that in. I'm going to go to this directory and type localhost 3000. I'll open up this web page right here. Now if you see this page, that means your project is set up and ready to go. So it's up onto VS Code, and I don't think we need to stop the server actually. Let's open up the source directory and then go to the logo and delete that because we don't need it. And let's open up setup.test.js and delete that as well. And we don't require the app.test.js either. So let me go into app.js and remove this. Then remove all of this and save it. And in here, I'm going to type a hello world message and h1 pack. All right, so we should see hello world. Yeah, so everything's working perfectly fine. Now let's get on with the app.js and see what we can do from there. So this is how we'll go about doing it. We are going to store each and every step of the sorting algorithm. So suppose say we'll have an array of arrays in which every single subarray is a step. So first, when we are traversing through the steps array, we will encounter this specific array. And in this specific array, the current arrangement of the bars is as you can see above. So when we come to the next step, 139 and 275 are getting swapped, and this is what will happen. You will see it for yourself when I actually implement it in React, but this is just a rough picture of how things are going to be, so we don't get confused, So let's go on, jump onto VS Code and start implementing it. Now, we don't need any of this code. Rather, we are going to be using a class component. So I'm going to say CC. By the way, I'm using React snippets, so the extension is React, and you'll see ES7 React Redux GraphQL native snippets. This is the extension I'm using. You can go and download it from Visual Studio Extensions. You have to search for it, or you have to type this out entirely, just like that. And now I'm going to name the class as app and export it here as app as well. All right, so now it's asking us to, okay, it says there's an error here. Let's go ahead and fix that. I'm going to have a div with a class name, and then next one, let's say hello world again, just to test. Hello world. And yeah, now things should work like they worked before. Let's go ahead and find out. And we have an error. Okay, so it says we're exporting app twice, and we cannot export app twice because we already exported it. So now what's the error? Okay, so it cannot find component. So let's go ahead and do that. Import React component. Actually, it should have done it when I used the snippet, but it didn't do it. So I had to do it all by myself, and now the error should be gone, and it's gone. Let's head over to Chrome, and yeah, you can see the message. Now, we are going to set the states up. So go to the states object, and the state object, and then we'll start with having an array state to store the array. And then, as I said, we need array steps, store each step of the sorting algorithm. Now we need colors, different colors representing each and every bar. So color key, and we need steps for those colors as well. So color steps, and that's set to an empty array. Now we need something to notify us of the current step. So current step, and set that to 0. And then we need the count for the number of bars. So count equals 0. And then we need a delay so that we can re-render the components according to the delay. So delay, let me set that to 100. And then the algorithm, and set that to an empty string. Now we're going to need one more special array called the timeouts, because every time we set a timeout, we need to clear it, and we need to store the timeouts in an array so that it'll be easier for us to clear the timeouts. So that is that. And next up, we are going to need to generate a random array. So let me actually create a function here. So generate random array, and it's not going to take any arguments. So what this function is going to do is it's going to generate a random array, and then it's going to set the state of the current, set the state of the array state that we set up here, this one. Yeah, so this one will generate a random array. So for generating a random array, we need to take the count. So const count equals this dot state dot count, and then we are going to need the array itself. So const temp equals this dot state dot array. So this temp is going to serve as a temporary array. It is an empty array. We can even initialize it like so. Let me say new array, initialize it as an empty array, and this would work as well. So now we are going to need to generate random bars, right? So let me go ahead and create another function. Say generate random number, and this is going to take, by the way, we should be using arrow functions, because if you're using traditional functions, then you have to bind every single function in the constructor, and that is kind of tedious to do, so that's why I'm going to be using arrow functions. Now this will take two arguments, the min and the max value, and we need to add a comma over here. Okay, now we're going to return math.lore of math.random max minus min plus min. So it has to be more than the minimum value and less than the maximum value. That's exactly what we're doing here. Now, once we're done with that, we need to generate a random array. So for let I equals 0, I less than count, I plus plus, I'm going to say array temp dot push, and I'm going to push this dot generate random number, and I'm going to pass in a minimum and maximum value. So now if I log out the temp array, I mean we need a way to call this, right? We need a way to call this method. So I'm going to initialize a component did mount method, yeah, and that is going to call this dot generate random array. Yeah, generate random array. Now if I go on and refresh it, let me open up the WP tools, and we have array of 0. We have an error right here. It's like runtime error. Port closed because response was received. I think we don't have any errors right here. Okay. It compiled with warnings. So let me remove this and initialize it that way. Now let me see if it worked. And it did display an empty array, so we are getting somewhere. Temp.push. I am doing temp.push, so why isn't it returning? Did I set the count to 0? Yeah. So let's say the count is initially 10, so we need 10 bars. So yeah, now it should return an array with 10 random numbers. You can see that. 10 random numbers. Okay, cool. Refresh it again. Yeah, okay. So we are fine there. Now we need to display the bars according to the numbers generated in our array. So for that, I'm going to be creating a new directory called components inside the src directory, CONENTS. Yeah, correct. And I'm going to be creating a new file called bar.js. Now, in the bar, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the array's length, that is the current element, and then we are going to, not the arrays length actually, the current element, and then we're going to be generating a bar of this particular height. All right, so let me go ahead and have a functional component right here. So let's go RLCE, React functional component. Yeah, and that is supposed to be called bar. Now, what I'm going to return is a div with a class name bar. Oh, yeah, I did make a mistake. Shouldn't have done that. Now, yeah. Now let me remove this div and add a React fragment. Right? A React fragment is an enclosure, but it doesn't act as a div. Right? In React, you always have to return a single element. And enclosing it can be how many of a children component you want, but you have to return a single element. So in here, I'm going to return a div with the class of bar. And then inside that, I'm going to have, let's not style it right away. So let's say, I think I can have a style sheet. Okay, bar.css. Let's create that and let's import that for now. So import / bar.css. No, wait, css bar.css. Now let's go import the bars, the bar.js in app.js. Okay, so import. Actually, let me go with separately. It was going to be the CSS imports. Yeah, this is going to be the first generic import, and this is going to be my local. So import bar from /components/bar.js. Now we need to generate bars before we render it out. So I'm going to go and say let bars equals this dot state dot array dot map, because that is where we have the bars, and going to have two arguments, the value and the index. So when we're using map, it gives you, well, it can take two arguments when you initialize the callback. That is the value and the index. These come in order, not in any other order. You cannot have index and then value. So now let me return a bar component with a prop of key, because React is going to complain. Let me show you. Index, let me just put it here for now. And then index equals index, length equals value, and then color equals this dot state dot color key of index. Right, so let me format that. And now we need to set the state inside the get random arrays method. So I'm going to go set state. Yeah, this dot set state. Correct. Why did I check that? Yeah, this dot get state. Get state. Why isn't it? No, yeah, set state. This dot set state. How about? And we are going to set the state of array to temp. And then we're going to set array steps to temp as well. Yeah, comma right here, because it has to be an object. All right, so now if we, yeah, it is running, the server is running. If I refresh and see, well, I haven't called it anywhere. So yeah, I'm going to be displaying bars and stuff in the world. So bars, just like that, because I'm using JavaScript. I'm writing JavaScript inside of JSX. So this is JSX syntax, and I want to use JavaScript in the middle. So I'm using these braces, curly braces. Right, so now let me set the height property of this div. So tile equals, let's say, bar style. Then let me have an object called const bar style equals, and I can write CSS in here. So what I'm going to do is say height was whatever length we got. So length. Now we need to actually get the props that we passed in here. So if you see in app.js, I'm passing in the props right here. So key is a default prop. It is because there are going to be multiple bars under the same div. React needs some key to uniquely identify every single bar, and that is going to be the index. So now we need to actually destructure these props in here. So I'm going to have index, the same order, length, and then colors, I believe, or is it color? Yeah, it's color. So color. And the height is set. I'm importing bar.css. Now let me go to bar.css and set the style for bar. Say background was aqua, just for now. And then say width equals 25 pixels. And let me leave it right there. Now if I go ahead and, I think I have called it right. Yeah, I have called it. Now if I go ahead and refresh, I'm not seeing any, it's a body, root, and inside app. Oh, inside the H1. Shit, I'm such an idiot. I shouldn't have called it inside the H1 because H1 cannot enclose the div. Right, so now it should work. What do we have here? App, and nothing is inside the app. I am setting the array, right? Just generating random array. Yeah, but it's not printing. It's not giving what I need. So bars equals, it is happening before return. And yeah, something has gone wrong. Let me figure out what that is and get back to you right away. And I figured out what the mistake was. So we have to return something here. And since we're not returning, it is not initializing any value to the bars variable we have here. You found out that. Okay. You can do this and get the output. You can see right here, we would have gotten the output. You can see all the bars in here. Yeah. Or you can even remove this return completely. Remove that. And then move this bar slightly up and remove the curly braces as well. So now you will need to add normal parentheses in here to enclose this bar. Okay, so this will automatically return because it's ES6 syntax. It will automatically return the bar component and we'll have it ready to render. All right, so with that done, let's go and style the bar like we wish, and I'll see you there. We save it. Now let's get on with styling the bar. So what I'm going to be doing is, first of all, let me initialize an array, say colors array, and then put in the following values. Well, let me type it out for you so you don't miss it. I'm going to have RGBA. These are colors, just color codes, RGBA color codes. 61, 90, 241, and with an opacity of 0.5. That is my first color code. And let me have another array. So these will have just light and dark variant of the same colors. Just copy this and paste it. And just tweak the opacity and make it 0.2. That should do fine. Now, well, do that. Copy this. Paste it down. Format it a little bit. Yeah. And now that is 61, not G1. But 61, supposed to be 61. Now the next color is 255. The maximum is 255 because we are using RGB scale. 48, 79, and 1. And this has got to be a little bit lighter than that, so I'm going to say 0.5 would be good here. Okay, so this has got to be the same thing, same color code. Perfect. So now we are going to have 131, 232, and 90. You paste that and make the opacity 0.2. Perfect. And make this opacity 0.5. Yeah. So this is going to be a light variant of some green, and this is going to be a dark variant of red, and this is going to be a purplish blue. Yeah, so now with the colors set, let's go ahead and return some extra components. I mean, extra elements inside this div. Okay, so now let me expand this div. And in here, I'm going to have a div with class side and then top. Okay, so we are going to be representing the divs in 3D fashion. And they are going to be bars which are going to fill up. So this is how we do it. Just follow along. Now, let me have another div. Dot. Well, I'm using Emmet, by the way. It is built into VS Code. If you're using any other text editor like Atom or Sublime Text, I think you will have Emmet extensions for those as well. But if you're using VS Code, you just have to follow along. Now I'm going to have another class called side and then bottom. Yeah. And then another one called with side right. Oh, dot. We need to have two separate classes. That is what I'm doing here. And then we are going to need side left and side front. So that is what we're going to be doing. Side left and side front. Okay, so let's fill these in. And in here, I'm going to have, well, in here, I'm going to have something because the top is supposed to be left empty. Now, for this side bottom, I'm going to initialize a style, say const, a style component, a style object. So const bottom. I think I can name that. Right? Now we have a transform and then translate its y-axis to, well, and we need to give, not in here, in here, we need to give tildes because we want to have custom strings, I mean, dynamically generated strings, all right? $200 because that is the maximum that we set in app.js right here. See, the maximum is set to 200. And now minus the length. Yeah, and those many pixels. So it has to translate the y-axis to those many pixels and then rotate x to minus 90 degrees. If it is a constant string, if it is not dynamic, you can just pass it in. But if you need to generate the value dynamically, that's what we're doing here, because every single bar is going to be generated randomly and the styles for those need to be generated dynamically, right? That's what we're doing here. So the next property is going to be the background color property. So the background color, now you observe that background color usually in CSS, we give it like this, but in JavaScript, you cannot use a hyphen. So that's why you combine those colors using camel case. I mean, not colors, those two separate parts of text using camel case. So now I'm going to do colors, color of, well, I forgot this. Colors, that is what we're getting here, right? It's color. What is the array's name? It is colors. So I have to actually define before using it. Yeah. So colors of color and 0, because this is going to be bright, a bright variant. It's what I'm using here. Because we are going to be working with shadows and all that, we need to do this. So the next part is going to be box shadow. Now we'll be using the light variant. So box shadow, and that is going to be 5 pixels, 50 pixels. I've already calculated these values, so if you want to add your custom CSS, you can go ahead and do that as well. If you want to follow along, please do so. Colors, color, and then 1. Now what this will do is, color will give us a value, say 0 or 1 or 3. No, 0 or 1 or 2. Any of these 3 values. And we will pick an element. So we will be using the first variant of that element and the second variant of that element. This is just two-dimensional arrays. If you know arrays and you know two-dimensional arrays, you know how this works. All right. So now we have a transition property. Then I'm gonna say 0.3 seconds. You observe it is a normal string. That is why I'm just passing it in using normal quotes. But if it's a dynamically generated string, you have to use these specific symbols. It's not a quote. It is this symbol. You can find it before 1 on your keyboard. Yeah. So next, generate the styles for the right, I believe. I think next was right? Top, bottom, right, left, and then front. Yeah. So for the right, let's have height, because it's not the top. It needs to have the height. Height equals length. I think I can just go. Yeah. You want it to be in pixels. There we go. Working. What does it say? Identifier expected. Okay, const. It should be an object. Yeah, should not forget that. And next we are going to add a property called transform. Yeah, transform property. And then translate y to 200 minus length. Pixels. And that would be enough. Now we'll add a background color property. Then add the same thing. By the way, for auto code recommendation, I'm using tab 9. It is a wonderful extension. Do try it out. You will also find that in VS Code extensions. Okay, so this is going to be the Docker version of that. And then box shadow, same thing. And this thing there, yeah, box shadow. And colors of color 1, the light version. Now transition, I think I'm going to copy this. Transition of 0.3 seconds. One more object that is going to be for the left, and then we are going to do it for the front. Okay, so const left, and then I think I'm going to copy this and paste it right here. Copy paste, and then I'm going to translate the y. That's going to remain the same. It's going to remain the same, and everything's going to remain the same. I think I can just use this right and left property bar. Yeah, right, left, and just name it the same. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to do it for the front. So const, I think the front and bottom will be the same as well. I'm not for sure. I think they'll be the same as well. So front and bottom. Yeah. So now we are going to add divs inside of these containers though. So side bottom is going to have a style of front bottom. You just pass it in and it sets all the styles. Now I think next we're going to be doing it for the side right. Style equals the same thing. I believe it's right left. Why is my autocomplete working? Yeah. Sure. Right left. There we go. And then we're going to be passing in for the left one as well. So style right left. And then we're going to be passing in for the front one. Style front bottom. All right. So now I'll be adding in an input tag. So that will go in here. Input type will be number. Length equals length. We are adjusting the length property. Then the value is going to be, actually let me set a state. So I'm going to be using React hooks here. Const length, comma, set length equals use state. Yeah, use state and it auto imports. Okay. Initially the length will be set to 0. No, the length will be set to whatever the length we received length. And then we are going to actually style the input as well. So go over here and type const input style equals, and set the position to relative, top, math dot floor, length divided by 2, minus 10. So these are hard computed values that I told you. And the width is going to be length. Then length is going to be mathematic flow. It's going to be the negative of that. Then plus 10. Then the border is going to be none. Yeah. And now we will be setting this class as well for the input. So the input will be taking in a class of, well, not the class, actually the style. So style equals input style. Yeah, perfect. Now in here, what we want to do is, actually we got an error. Oh, value, we haven't set the value yet. So value should be len, and then on change. So anytime we change it, we should call setlen. Well, actually, passing an arrow function. Set len. I think I have to find setlen, right? Must be my autocomplete. Setlen of e dot target, no, actually parseInt, right? ParseInt r. Let me actually pass it into another function. So handle change. Let me create an arrow function right here. So const handle change equals, it's going to be an arrow function. So this is going to take in an argument, say e. Yeah. And we're going to call setlen of parseInt of e dot target dot value. Hopefully that should do it. Well, and we need to check some things before we do this. So we will set it that way. But what if e is blank? We cannot parse a blank string to an integer. So we have to handle that condition. So let val equals e dot target dot value. So let's store the value in here. Then if val is an empty string, that's triple equals, if you're wondering. I'm just using a styler to style. I mean, my font is that way. So yeah, it is triple equals. You see, it is single equal to, double equal to, and triple equal to. That is the way we do it in JavaScript, comparing. Right, so set length of 0. Because we're passing an empty string, so we set the length to 0. And if this is not the case, then we take val equals, parse it to integer, because since we have the input set to a type of number, we will be getting in a number. And we are sure about that. We won't be getting a string. And so we need not have to worry about getting a string in here. So we're passing it directly to an integer. So once it is parsed to an integer, we're going to set length. And we're going to check first if value is greater than 200, then we set it to 200. Set length 200, because the maximum is 200 if you remember. Else we'll set it to whatever value we received. Set length to val. Perfect. And since we call the handle change handler in here, it's going to pass the event to this one. And from there we can go. Yeah, I need not even have to do this. Yeah, perfect. Handle change. Now this should work perfectly fine, but we have a few errors. Value, yeah. And none. So this should be a string. Yeah, make the following changes and you should be good to go. It'll work perfectly fine so far. Now we need to do a little bit more. And we got an error. What is it? Cannot read property of 0. Alright. So it is giving me an error. So let's code further and see if the error persists or not. Because we're not done with it yet. Now, we need to do some more changes. So in the side right, actually, we are going to add some more inside this div. So let's add a div with class color bar, white color, and the white color bar. And then to this, we'll pass in the style. Style will be passed into this div. Yeah. Now we'll do the same thing for left as well as, yeah, I think only left. I think we should even do it to the side and top bottom. Yeah. So even for this one, we'll do the same thing. We'll set this. And we'll have a div with a class of, no, I don't think it's necessary. I think, yeah, for the side and for the side left and the side right, we need some adjustments. So that's why we did it. Because we're going to have, top and bottom, they actually stay in place. But side and left, they need to show the varying changes in different values. So that's why we put it inside the div. Because we want the length of this inner div to be appropriately set, and this outer div will be set to 200 because that is the maximum height. So that is why we did this step. Now we need to do the same thing for the right as well. So a div for the class of color bar, left color bar. Yeah, so now pass the same style in. Let's see. Yeah, perfect. So far, so good. Now we need to go ahead and edit in our bar.css, and I'll catch you there. And before that, we have to solve the error that we had here. Yeah, right here. So it's saying cannot read property 0 of undefined. So it's saying this colors array that we are getting here, it is undefined. This color's value, because we're not passing one in. So if you observe over here, I'm getting the color, but actually I'm not passing a value. So because the colors value is unset over here. So let me pass in 0 for the time being, right? I think that'll be cool. For the time being, let's pass in 0. And then go over here and refresh. And as you can see, it is working perfectly fine. If you still have a doubt on how to solve that error, well, I will be covering it. Don't worry. The bars are still intact. Now we'll go and code the CSS for it. So it was quite hectic coding all this, but the CSS, I think it relieved a little bit of stress on your mind. So let's go right to it. Now, the bar set, I'm going to remove this background because we are actually setting the background there, right? And now we will just increase the width to 2 EM, that is equivalent to 25 pixels. And then set the height to 200 pixels. 200 pixels, not 2. Yeah. Then the margin of top to bottom, 0 and 1 EM. So whenever you want to know about the shorthand for margin, let me tell you right here. Whenever you're editing the margin property, this is for the top and this is for the right, I believe. This is for the bottom and this is for the left. So this is how much margin you want to leave at the top. This is how much margin space you want to give at the right, the bottom, and the left of the current HTML element, right? And if you are using this shorthand that I'm using, this is for top and bottom, and this is for right and left. So 0 margin at top and bottom, and 1 EM margin at the right and left. So that's how it goes. Now, let's go to transform. transform style. We want to preserve the 3D style because we're going to be doing the graph, the 3D bars. Transform, we need to rotate X to -20 degrees. As I said, I've computed these values already, so if you want to put in your own values, make it look kind of different, you can. So rotate Y to -30 degrees. Then dot side. So side is going to style all these side elements. Where are those? Yeah, all these. So width will be 100%. Height will also be 100%. Position will be absolute for this one. With absolute positioning, it will not be related to anything. Not be relative to anything. That is what absolute means. It is quite the opposite of relative positioning. Well, I cannot be covering all CSS right here, so CSS is not going to be part of this video. RGBA. Probably I will make a video on how to do the CSS. For this one, how I did the CSS for this one. Probably I will. 54 to 54 0.25. Yeah. So dot back, we style all the elements with the back color. No, we had a few elements here. I believe we had a few elements with back color. Or didn't we? Forgot to add them. I think we forgot to add it. Yeah. So after front, we need to get dot side dot back. And then we need to get another div with color bar back color bar. And the style for this is going to be the same as the front. So let me pass in style. Style. Then what was it? Front bottom, I believe. Yes, it is front bottom right here. So front bottom. OMP bottom. Format that. And I think that should be fine. Now we need to go ahead and edit in our bar.css, and I'll catch you there. Now, one more thing before we go back to the CSS, we need to have the same class in here as well. So another div with the class of color bar, and then color front color bar. And then we need to pass in the style here, not there. So let me select that, Control F, Control V, Shift Alt N, yeah, to format. And I think we're pretty much done here. We save that and go back to the CSS, and let's code out this part. So transform, and I'm going to translate here, translate Z. So it's going to just move Z axis 4 pixels. Right, so next is going to be left. I'm going to transform origin to left. Then I'm going to transform rotate Y to a 90 degrees. After this, I'm going to go and start right. We are doing the same thing pretty much. So copy this and make this right. And then that should be a negative 90 degrees because this is quite the opposite. Right is the opposite of left, left is the opposite of right. Logic. So after right, we're going to the top, and this is going to be quite the opposite of the bottom, but we haven't done the bottom yet, so you know it. So yeah, height equals not inherit 34 pixels. Hardcode. Transform origin top and bottom will be bottom if we guess it right. Then transform rotate the x-axis to 90 degrees. Then set the background color to the same thing right here, but with a little bit less opacity. So background color, but we get that. Little bit less opacity. Let's make it 1.5 because you need that shadow effect. Now dot bottom. Bottom, if you guessed it right, copy this, paste it in here, and it's going to be 34 pixels. And then we are going to let it be top. That is the only thing we are going to make it do. And then we are not going to have this, nor are we going to have this. Instead, we are going to have a different color. Say 225, because we need to start from the bottom. When top is gray and the bars need to be filled, but this has to be filled with some value because the bottom needs to be filled and the top needs to be empty. So that's how it goes. You'll see it for yourself. Now this is going to be 0 and this is going to be 120 to be 0.5. Now box shadow, same color but a little bit less opacity. What we did there, if you remember that. Remember this part? What we did there. The harder variant, lighter variant, the box shadow. The same thing as what we're doing here. Right, so dot color bar. So it'll affect all the color bars in this. You can see there's a lot. This, and everything get affected. So I'm going to set the background color. Quite the same. This one. Yeah. And then we're going to set the box shadow as well. And then we're going to add a transition. Well, we should have added a transition here because, it is going to fill in when we load. N-I-T-I-O-N, transition. It's going to be 0.3 seconds. Yeah. So we'll copy this. Copy this entire thing and paste it down here. Yeah, so whenever we load the page, the bars are going to fill up. And that's why we need the transition timing. So I think that should cut the chase. Now let's go ahead and refresh. As you can see, the bars are starting to come up. You can see right there. Now we're going to manipulate the input. So what was the inputs class again? We add a class name. We added a style name. We didn't add a class name. So let's add a class name called input. Input. Yeah, so if I go dot input, and this has to be rotated 90 degrees. So I'm going to text align center first of all, then transform, rotate just rotate, not rotate any specific axis, 90 degrees. Then set the height to 25 pixels and set the outline to none. And what do we have now? As you can see right there, we have the bars. Right. And now we need to align them properly. So let me get back to this. Now we're going to need to add some styling in the app.js. Right, so let me go to the app.js, and in here we'll not just be returning the bar, we'll be returning something extra as well. So, well, up there, yeah. Let me add a div with a class here called frame. Then let me add another div, bars div dot container dot card. Perfect. And in here we display the divs. So bars. Yeah. Quite cool. Now outside the frame we will have the control panel. So and I'll let that be. And outside of this we'll have the actual panel. Yeah. So now in app.css, where is it? Yeah, app.css, we are going to need to add the following. So I don't think we need any of these. No, we won't. I think in the app, the text line would be good if it was there. So I'll leave that. Now we know everything else. And then we're going to style dot frame. Set the margin to 0. Put the display to flex. Then justify content, the center. And then align items to center as well. So this is just the basic display flex thing that we're going with. And now we need to design the container. So dot container, and this will be display flex as well. Yeah, but we need a margin first. The margin is going to be 5 em on top and bottom and 0 on left and right. And then justify content center, and you guessed it, align items center. Height will be set to 220 pixels because we need a little more room, right? So now let me style the card. Border radius is going to be 2 em. Then padding is going to be 0 on the top and bottom and 1 em on left and right. And background color, just put 8.8.8. Perfect. So now I think it should be fine. Yeah, we're kind of getting there, you see? Kind of getting there. Okay, so in the stylings, well, let's remove this, right? Front and bottom, let's remove that. Before that, let me add another object, say const. Let me do front and back, because top and bottom has got to be the same. Front and back has got to be the same. BACK. Yeah, let me copy paste that. Actually, no, wait a minute. Front, back, left and right, all have got to be the same. So front, back, right, left, everything's got to be the same. And let me copy this one, then pass it in here, pass it in here, pass it in here, and here. Then
Yeah, let that be bottom, not front bottom. I think we might have to change the top as well, but for that, yeah, right, left. Where have I used right, left? Here. I don't need that. Yeah, I had to remove that. And yeah, let's switch over to brown. Now it's coming like this. Okay, we get it. I get it, okay. We're able to change the values, okay, that is fine. Now we need some way to make it look more attractive, pleasing to the eyes, you know what I mean? So let me find some good styles. Let me go online, search for something good. Now need to in VS Code. Okay, so now we're going to be adding some more styling. So this is how it looks right now. Right, so let's make it look better. Now, did I miss something? It's preserve 3D, not 3. Go to your bar selector and change this one. Okay, preserve 3D. And you see that? It's getting back to shape. All right. So now let's go ahead and set this input style, background. Not it's not working for some reason. To none. Okay, it's set to none. Let's go back and check this out. Yeah, see that? It's kind of working. Okay, so let's make it work. Fine, now let's get back to bar.js. Let me figure out what I've gone wrong here. Let me just tweak this a little bit. So say 12 will be fine, 17 will be fine. See that now? There is some extra space right there. And we need to make this go away. So let's do that right. Go back to VS Code. And we're going to have to select the input selector. Input. And its type is number. I'll check. Then we are going to want to set the WebKit inner spin button. And then select the input type number outer spin button. Right. Now format that and at the WebKit, you need not have to memorize this thing. It's just a styling that I got from the web. I didn't come up with it on my own though, but it really helps, you know, making the input field not look like it at all. It makes it look like a plain div. And then you add another line, input type is number. Let me select that. This is for Mozilla. Parents, that's the text field. Right, cool. So now you see that we don't see the up and down arrows there for adjusting. Now we need to center it up, align it up along with the bars, and we'll do that. We go to bar.js, and I think it should be somewhere in here. Input style, that is what we should have done. But I think we don't need the bar style right here. So let me remove that. Then we comment this out. Yeah, now it's aligned. Since we had that bar style, it actually added some more height to it. What is wrong with this? Okay, okay, I see it. Now we need to align the input along with the bar. I think this might solve that issue. Probably I didn't see this coming, but let's go ahead and add it. So quantity, and then yeah, quantity. Is spelling quantity correct? Yeah, it is correct. So create a div with quantity nav, and then another div with quantity button, and then quantity up. Okay, now you need to copy the same div and make another div with quantity down. These are our custom incrementers and decrementers. Okay, so these are going to have a style as well. So let's create a style object. So const, and I can give it a name. So quantity, give that name. And I have to give it a position of relative, I guess. So position relative, and then from top should be 225 pixels. Right, so now let me pass in this thing as the style quantity. So style the quantity. Style for this one as well is going to be quantity. Let's format that, save it, and go over to bar.css. And in here, I'm going to set the quantity button. We're going to use this selector. Take text align center, then background, say RGBA, may select round color. Keep that. Let me go blue. I'll select kind of green. Yeah, I'll go green. Okay. So once that is done, I'm going to set the margin for this just to 1 pixel on all sides. Cursor, pointer, then user select, none. I'm just going to copy and paste some boilerplate from the internet right here. Yeah, so this is for not allowing the user to select in all the other devices. This will do it, but you have to do this if your app is going to be on other devices and other browsers. Yeah, so that is that. And we need to add a hover as well. So quantity button and hover. I need to make the opacity of this object a little bit less. So maybe 0.5. So I don't see it, yeah, because of course I didn't see it because I did not add it in here. Add a plus and the minus right here. And see those right there? They're perfectly aligned, and we need to still align the input tags. Now, in order to center the text that we had inside the input tag, we are going to just move it inside this div right here. So I think that should cut the chase, and I should see it. Yeah, it's perfect. It's aligned. Now let's go ahead and try to code out an algorithm. So let's go to app.js. Now in here, there are still some things left to do. So let's do that one by one. Now, first of all, I need to be able to change the numbers by giving input. So suppose say that I give a number input in here and it should change. So in order to do that, I'm going to be actually defining a function inside of here. So enable function change array. Oh, and it should not be ES6, yeah. Then it should be ES6, so I have to give equal to there. And now we need to get a few things straight. We need another array in here. So let array equals this dot state dot array. We're taking the original array and then array of index equals value. Now this is what we'll change, and this will take in two arguments. Those are, if you guess it right, index and value. Right. So now we're going to set the state array and then array steps. And then we're just going to change the current step to 0, just in case we are in the middle of the execution and we wanted to change the array, right? So with that done, I think we need to do it here as well. So current step again over here, I'm going to set to 0, just in case we are in the middle of the execution and we need to change the generate a new array, say for example. We need to get back to 0 step or else we'll be executing from nowhere. And probably that step might not exist. Who knows, right? So I think current step I spelled it correct. Yeah, it is a state name. It is correct. So now I'm going to go to bar.js and we have a few errors here. So what does it say? In app.js line number 46, array is not defined. Okay, it has to be ARR. And this has to be ARR as well. Yeah, perfect. No errors. Good so far. Now I'm going to pass it in actually before doing that. Yeah, I'm going to pass it into this thing. Where doesn't read the bars? Yeah, here. So say change array, and then I'm going to pass it in as a prop. Change array instead of change array. Yeah. So once we're done with that, I'm going to save it, and I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to destructure the prop. So change GEARRY, change array. We have that there, and we need to change the array, but we don't need this in here anymore. Yeah, we need to change the array every time we set the length. So change array of index, comma the value is 0. The same goes for this one as well. Index, comma the value is 200 though. And then the same goes for this one, except the value is the value itself. Yeah, perfect. So now if at all I could change the array value, it should, yeah, it is changing. It is perfectly fine now. As you can see, if I refresh, let me show it to you one more time. It is 66 and I change it to 166 and it just fills up. No issues there. It's working perfectly fine. Now let's go back to VS Code and save it. I think I didn't save it. Yeah. Fine. I didn't save the format part, I guess. Yeah. So that should be fine. And I need to add functionality to these two buttons right here. So I don't think we need that. I think we can just go with imaginary plus and simple minus will be fine here. Yeah, perfect. Let's not get things too complicated, right? Now I need to add an on-click listener. Then I'm going to set it to a callback function called increment because it's the plus sign, REMENT, increment. Then another on-click call here and make it decrement. And I'm going to have to define those functions. So out here, const increment equals, add an event. Yeah. So what increment will do is set the length to current length plus 1. Change array index, now 1 plus 1 as well. Then const decrement will actually do the exact opposite. It will decrease it by 1, then set the array of length -1. Now let's try these out. Let me refresh. That is working perfectly fine. Now the reason why we are doing this is as soon as the set length is executed, it doesn't have to actually change the length immediately, so it will take some time. Meanwhile, this statement might get executed, so that is why we are being precautious here and we are decrementing it once again. And I think we can avoid that by using use effect. So use effect. Now this is another React hook. It's quite simple in terms of it's working. So I'm going to go setlen gph. I think it is len. Yeah. The length changes, length. Yeah, so it doesn't cause any breaking changes, but what if I set it to len? Len. So now I increment it. It's perfectly fine. Now what if I remove this? Will it work the same? Because we're setting the len. Let's check for increment. It's working the same. It's working fine. I don't think it really makes a difference. So we can go like this. Yeah, we can do it like this, and let's make this length len. Because whenever we get a change in this length, that is when the state will update itself. Okay, perfect. Now I think we are done with setting up the bar. Now let's go head over to apps.js and we will actually add a few buttons. Okay. So let me go down here and inside render. Let me go and set play button. Oh, I'm still inside the bars. All right. Now to come over here. Let play button equals nothing actually. Let me just initialize the variable. And then if this dot array steps, no, state dot array steps actually, this dot state dot array steps dot length equals this dot state dot current step. That is if we are in the last step, that means the play button should go away and I should instead display a reset button. Right, so play button will then be equal to button with the class name of controller, and then we actually need to add something in here. Now let me stop the server, and we are going to need Material UI core and Material UI icons here. So I'm going to install that. Add material yarn add actually yarn add at material UI slash core and material UI slash icons. Let me install that. It is going to take some time. It's taking quite a while actually. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and make some imports. So these are going to be from the install packages. So I'm going to import, or I think I can make a whole new section. Icons. Then I can import. I want play from material UI slash icons, not core, slash play circle filled. No, actually not filled. Outline. Outline rounded. Perfect. I need that one. I'm going to import forward material UI slash icons slash skip next outlined. No, I need rounded. Skip next rounded. In that one. Import. Oh my god. Import backward from material UI slash icons slash skip previous rounded. And then I'm going to get the reset button. So rotate left from at material UI slash icons again slash rotate left. Perfect. Now we are going to have to put it in here. So what will be in here is the rotate left button, as I said here, because we need to reset the array. So we need to give the rotate left, and it can be a self-closing tag, right? That should be fine. And I think now we are good to go with the play button. So if this is not the case, then we'll have the play button set equal to the play button itself. So why? Perfect. And now we need to display the buttons. So the buttons will be displayed inside of the control panel right here. So we'll have another, say, control div control buttons. Then in there, we will have the play button. Perfect. We should see something. And the server is not running. So yarn stopped. And starting development server, I think it should load right now. Let's click on see. And yeah, as you can see that, there's the play button. So we need to make some tweaks to it. We need to center it. We need to add some CSS and make it proper. But before that, let's add the left and the right buttons. That is the previous and the next, the forward and the backward buttons. All right. So we are going to have the same class I mean, not this one. We have the same class as this one. And then in here, we will be giving, I think it is backward, right? Backward. And then we have the same thing, but the forward after this step. No, after the play button. And this should be forward. And forward is not found. It's not defined. Why? Forward. Oh. Now you can see that we have the buttons ready. Okay. So now we should hook up the functionality to them. I think we'll first style them. Right, so in order to style them, we have to go back to our app.css. And in here, we need to style the controller, the control panel and the control buttons. So I think they are the classes, right? Let me push app.css here. In control panel, control buttons, and controller. All right, cool. So control CONT auto BUTTONS, and for the buttons, control, I don't know, I think it's control buttons, right? It's control buttons, yeah. Copy this so I don't make any typo. Let me paste it in here. Not a dot. Yeah, okay, so the controller, let's say it'll have a background of 555. That's a great. Margin 0.1 em. Border 1 pixel. Solid. Height 3 em. Same goes for the width. 3 em. Then border radius will be 100% because we need circular buttons. Yeah. And the background can be transparent. And we need a cursor to be of type pointer. And display flex. And if you guess it right, justify content center, align item center. Perfect. Now we're done with this. Let's go ahead and style the panel. I forgot to add the panel. I think we have the panel, right? I think so. Yeah, we have it over here. Okay. Let's leave it for now. Let me add it at the end. Right here. Okay. So control buttons. Let's say give them a height of 4 em and 4. And then a width 15 em. Quite huge actually. Background color EEE, that's white. We don't need display flex, justify content center, align items center as well. Perfect. Now let's go to control panel. Control panel will just have a display of flex, justify content of center, and align items of center as well. Now these are formatted, and let's go and take a look. And as you can see, there she shines, the beauty. Perfect. Now we need to add the functionality to them, and we'll do it. Okay. So let me go back to app.js. And in order to add the functionalities, we need to write some more functions. How fun, right? So let's first generate the steps actually. in order for that to happen, we need to at least add back to app.js. Now, to add the functionality, we need to add some more functions. So what we're going to be doing is, well, we're going to have a function called generate steps, and we're going to generate the steps for, sorting, and we're going to write our first algorithm. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me have it right here. So generate steps equals, and then I need to make a copy of the array. So array equals this dot state dot array dot slice, and this will make the copy of an array of this array. Yeah. So we need steps as well. So steps equals this dot state dot array steps dot slice, and we need to call the method. Yeah. Now we need the color steps as well. Color steps dot slice. Yeah, perfect. And after doing that, we need to set this dot set state of algorithm. So we need not have to set state because we're not changing the algorithm right here. Let me initially set it to, say, bubble sort. And let me have an object in here. So const algorithms equals, and we do not have to do const here because this is a class and a function. Yeah. So in here, I'm going to say bubble sort. We'll tend to bubble sort. So this bubble sort is going to be imported from another Java file, on a JavaScript file. So let me create a new directory called algorithms. Let me create a new file called bubblesort.js, bs.js. Right, now let me import the algorithms. Import bubble sort from dot slash, no, I think dot slash algorithms. Yeah, slash ps. Okay, so we go to the generate steps method, and in here what we need to do is now call the algorithm, and I think we'll be pretty much done there. So let me go ahead and say this dot algorithms of this dot state dot algorithm. It's not algorithm, it's algorithm. And I'm realizing it now. I'm going to pass in the array, the position, steps, and the color steps. Okay, once I do that, I'm going to set this dot set state, the array steps, and then the color steps. Perfect. So now let's write the bs.js file, write something in there. So for bubble sort, we're actually going to say const bs equals an arrow function, and this is going to take in the arguments, okay, comma position, comma steps, comma color steps. Let me make it array steps actually. All right. So now let color key equals color steps of color steps dot len -1 dot slice. So it will make a copy of the first array in the color steps array. Okay. Now for let I equals 0, I less than array dot length, and then I plus plus. Actually, this goes pretty much straightforward, like the bubble sort algorithm. So again, another for let j equals 0, j less than array dot length minus I minus 1, then j plus plus. And I think that we are doing it. Yeah, perfect. And yeah, now we have to check if array of j is greater than array of j plus 1, then we're going to swap array. We're going to pass in array j, and then j plus 1 are the elements we're going to swap. Okay, now swap is not defined, that we know. I'm going to create a new file called helpers.js. And in this helpers.js, I'm going to write the function for swap. So export function swap array, and you take a comma b. Now let c equals array of a. I mean, this is going to be index of a, right? So I comma j. We will be passing in the index. Yeah, we are passing in j and j plus 1, not array of j and array of j plus 1. Okay. So now array of a equals, I equals array of j. This is got to be I as well. And then array of j equals array of, no, not array of, actually c. And we are going to return the array. Return array. Perfect. So now I'm going to close this helpers and import swap. So import swap from /helpers. Now, once we have imported that, I think the error should go away now. It says algorithm/ps imported as bubble sort. Okay, we have to export it here. So export default ps. Right. Now the error is gone. Okay, so now I'm going to push this step inside the array. So array steps dot push of this array dot slice, because we have to make a copy. All right, and I'm going to change the color. So color key of j equals 1, because currently this item is being reviewed, and the same goes for color key of j plus 1 as well. So color key of j plus 1 is also equals 1. And then I'm going to push the color steps as well. Color steps dot push color key. And color key dot slice because we need to make a copy of it. And then push it in. Okay, so now color key of J should be set to 0 again. And then color key of J plus 1 should also be set to 0 again because we'll be done reviewing it once we have pushed it in. So after this, we'll have color key of array dot length minus 1 minus I equals 2. Then array steps dot push array dot slice. Then color steps dot push color key dot slice. Now this will first set the colors because we are reviewing them, then remove the colors because we are done reviewing them for every step. And then once we swap them, finally, it will set it to 2. I mean, once we are done swapping, so if that means the array is sorted because in the first iteration, in bubble sort, the largest element moves to the last. And so once we'll be done with the first iteration, that means the largest element is sorted and we are setting the last element to 2. And the array steps as well. We're pushing it because it is a new step, and then the color steps we're pushing it because we're putting a new step. And once everything is done, we're going to set all the rest to green. That is color steps of color steps dot length minus 1 equals new array of array dot length dot fill 2. Perfect. And then we're going to remove. Now we have the bubble sort function written. Let's close this and go back to app.js. And we need to generate steps every step of the way. So when we create a new array, new generate a random array, we need to call it in. So I'm going to call it as a callback. So this dot generate steps. And then once I change the array as well, so even in here as a callback, and calling it as a callback because this set state method is a asynchronous method. When it sets off to execute and we call it outside, the array might be different. So the steps might get generated for the wrong array. We don't want that to happen. So that is why we are doing this. And this is pretty self-explanatory. If you don't want it to happen that way, then you can use async await. It should not be a problem. Async await also works here. Okay. And yeah, so let's go ahead and call this dot generate steps. Perfect. Now we need to get, I think we are good to go, right? So let's go back here and we have an error. Slice is undefined in helpers. No, it's not in helpers, it is in. Well, I don't remember doing this. Let's go back to VS Code, open up bubble sort. Where does it say the error is? That color key. Color key equals color steps of colors dot length dot slice. Means not slice, yeah. That is correct. Why does it say it's wrong? Slice is undefined, not read property. So let me actually remove that. Now see if it's working. Property 0 some. Okay, so we haven't set the color key yet. That is a problem. I get it. So our slice wasn't a problem. Yeah, this wasn't a problem. We haven't set the color key. So do that by creating a function. Set or say the and in this function we need to set the color steps array to a array of 0, only zeros, because initially we want all the elements to be of color 0, and so that's why we're doing it. Now we'll have this dot state dot actually this dot set state, right? This dot set state color key equals say a blank key that we will generate, and then color steps will also be equal to blank key to put inside an array. Blank key. Perfect. Now let blank key equals new array of this dot state dot count dot fill with 0. And we need another method to clear the timeouts as well. So I don't think that's actually necessary. Let's just ditch it for right now. And generate random arrays. We call this dot clear color key. Perfect. And do we need to call it somewhere else? I think we need to call it even in change array. Do we need to call it in change array? No, I think in generate steps do we need to call it? I think this should be fine. You know what, let's call it in change array as well, but let me first check if this is working. And it's given us another error. Array.length.fill is not a function. Okay, so ps.js and then in there dot fill should not be array, which be small array. Yeah, perfect. Now it should be working. Yeah, perfectly fine. Good. Now, if I go and open my React Developer Tools, it is a Chrome extension. You can get it pretty easily. Now, if I go and check in the app, let me just pull it to this side. Yeah. So the array steps, the steps have been generated, and it's a single array. Why though? Even the color steps, no, the color steps is but the array steps is a single array. And that is not what we wanted. So let's go ahead and see what's wrong. I think the error must be in generate steps right here, I guess. I am doing this, array steps. It is set to an array, yeah, perfect. Not an issue there. Oh. And I need to set it to steps. Now it should work. Okay, so go to app, and as you can see right there, we have it. Array of 55. Okay. So again, I did a mistake. It should not be like that. It should be like that. Yeah. Now it should be perfectly fine. You can see, yeah. Array of arrays. Now we need a way to, so that if we click on the play button, it'll get sorted, right? So we need to add the functionality to the play button. So right here. So what could we name the function? I think we can name that start, right? Okay, so come in here, and then add on-click event listener, and call this start. All right, and let's go and write the code for that. So start. Now inside this function, I'm going to first, well, I should not clear anything. So let's copy the steps. This dot state dot array steps, and then let steps equals this dot state dot color steps. Let timeouts equals an empty array. Then let I equals 0. Now, while I is less than steps dot length minus this dot state dot current step. So while we are still inside the range of the array, let timeout equals set timeout, because we need to set a delay before something happens, right? So that is why we're doing this. Then let current step equals this dot state dot current step, and this dot set state. We're going to set the state of the array. Steps of current step, then color key to color steps of current step, and then current step to current step plus 1. Current step plus 1. Okay. So once we're done with that, timeouts dot push it in. Push this timeout in. T-I-M-E-A-U-T. Timeout. And this is the set timeout, yeah? So in here, this dot state dot delay. I'm going to set the delay times I. And then inside this while, I'm going to increment I. And then this dot set state of timeouts as timeouts. And we have an error. Steps. Okay, now we don't have an error. Now we need to write another function to clear the timeouts. So let me go about clear color key. Then a function called clear timeouts. this dot state dot timeouts dot for each. I'm going to create a timeout for every timeout that I have stored. So every timeout that I receive when I'm doing this with a delay, I'm going to clear all that. And I'm going to start fresh. So set the timeout to an empty array. This dot set state of timeouts and set that to an empty array. Perfect. Now we need to call it in generate random method. So this dot set clear timeouts, and in here inside start, is it? Yeah. So before, I think if you take these, start clear timeouts. Perfect. Now on click, it will well start the sorting process, and we need to stop it. So I will code that later. But first, let's see if this works. When we refresh, as you can see, it's sorting. It's working. But we need to pass in the color, the appropriate color. So for that, what I'm going to be doing is I have to come inside here and then do what we did before. So color key of, this has to be value there. Color key of index. I think that is right. I'm not so sure. It's not this. Is this dot state dot color key? Color key of index. Yeah. Okay. So let me refresh once again. Yeah, as you can see, it's working perfectly fine. Now we need a way to reset the array. So I think I'm going to be adding an on-click listener there. It's over here. Is it this one? No, it's this one. I'm going to be adding an on-click listener, and then call this dot generate random array. Yep. So if I sort, and I can get a new array. Perfect. Right. Cool. So now we need to add functionality to this one and this one. So previous step and next step. So let's do that. So let me add two functions again. Call them previous step and next step. So now if you want to go to the previous step, we need to actually change the current step. So what I'm going to be doing is let current step equals this dot state dot current step. I'm going to take it, and then if current step is 0, that means we are at the beginning. We cannot go backward. So in that case, I'm just going to return. And if that is not the case, well, Then I'm going to reduce current step minus equals 1. And then I'm going to set the state. This dot set state current step as current step, and then array as this dot state dot array of array steps of current step, then color steps as well. So color key as this dot state dot color steps of current step. Yeah, perfect. And for the next step, actually, it's quite the opposite. So we need to check if we are at the end and return. So that condition is if current step is greater than or equal to the end, that is this dot state dot array steps dot done. That is the end of the sorting minus 1, end of the total number of steps that we need to sort the array. So in this case, we need to increment it by 1, and then the rest is the same. So now we head over to the browser, refresh it. Okay, once it's sorted, we'll do it. Okay. Okay, I did not link it up there. So where is it? Previous button. That's over here. I think should do. I think let me do it over here. Yeah, on click this dot previous step. On click this dot next step. So now if I try it, and sort the array. Now I can go to the previous step, and as you can see, I can go forward as well. Perfect. It's working perfectly fine. All right, so I think we will be adding a way to increase the size of the array, and we will be adding a way to increase the speed limit. Should I do other algorithms as well? Well, I think I should be doing other algorithms. It will be fun, but the video is getting really long, and I think I'll be doing it for another video. So stay tuned if you want to see that video as well. I will be putting it up in a day or two. I might be. Okay, so this sorting visualizer is working perfectly fine. Now let's actually figure out a way to increase the number of steps. So we need to set the step right here. I mean, set the delay right here and set the number of elements right here. So if I say 20, I'll get 20 elements. If I say speed is equal to 10, it'll go super fast. See, you see? I mean, it's going so fast that you cannot even see it. So let me make it 500. Now I should go super slow. See that? Yeah, that's how it'll go. Now you can improvise on it, make it look different, do something like that. And I will improvise on it. I will be posting more videos, improvise more on it. So stay tuned. Now I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.